The knock that changed everything. Lena sat on the edge of her narrow bed, staring at the flickering city lights far below her window. The alien district was always noisy at night, ships humming overhead. Distant alarms, the soft buzz of neon signs advertising sci-fi roommates wanted. But her small apartment felt too quiet, too empty, and too cold for comfort. She scrolled through the roommate listings on her holopad for the 10th time that evening. She had sent out messages to every ad she could find, offering her extra room, promising cheap rent and even extra food rations. Still, the replies were all the same. Sorry, no aliens. Or worse, no reply at all. Lena's silvery fingers tapped on the cracked table. She missed her home world, the warmth, the laughter, the sense of belonging. Here on this human-controlled planet, aliens like her were just another problem to ignore. Her last roommate, a friendly insectoid girl, had moved out last week, unable to handle the constant fear and rules. Now, Lena was truly alone. If she didn't find a new roommate in the next few days, she'd lose her apartment. The thought made her stomach twist with worry. Just then, the wind outside changed. It howled between the towers, rattling the glass, and then a knock. Not loud, but firm. For simple taps on the metal door, Lena's heart thumped hard. No one visited her. No one even spoke to her if they didn't have to. She stood up slowly, the floor cold beneath her bare feet. She glanced at her reflection in the dusty mirror. Blue eyes, pale violet skin. Strange to humans, she knew, but ordinary where she was born. Another knock, a little louder this time. Whoever was out there wasn't giving up. Lena crept toward the door. She pressed her ear against it, straining to hear. Only the steady rain outside. With a deep breath, she slid the tiny view slit open and froze. A human stood on her doorstep. He looked tired, drenched from the rain, his brown hair plastered to his forehead. His coat was too thin for the cold, and he carried a single travel bag. He leaned close to the door, speaking softly so the neighbors wouldn't hear. "Excuse me? I saw your roommate ad. Is the room still open?" Lena blinked. No human had ever answered her ad. Most crossed the street to avoid her building. This had to be a trick, or a mistake. She didn't open the door right away. "Are you lost?" she called, voice thin and uncertain. The human shook his head. "No, my name is Eric. I really need a place for the night. Please." Something in his voice sounded honest, desperate even. Lena hesitated, then unlocked the first latch. Before she could say anything more, an alarm shrieked across the building, red lights flashing in the hallway. Her blood ran cold. It was a security sweep. They were searching for illegal renters and anyone helping undesirables. Eric's eyes widened. "Please, just let me in. I'll explain everything. If I stay out here, I'm finished." Lena's mind raced. Letting a human in could get her in trouble or worse. But leaving him outside felt wrong. She glanced at his bag, at his soaking clothes, and finally at his scared face. She made her choice. With shaking hands, she unlocked the last latch and pulled the door open. "Come in, quickly," she whispered. Eric hurried inside, closing the door softly behind him. He set his bag down and tried to catch his breath. They both froze as heavy. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. Someone shouted a deep mechanical voice from the patrol. "All residents, prepare for inspection." Lena's heart pounded as she looked at Eric. He looked back, silent, trusting her without words. She pointed to a small storage cabinet beneath the sink. "Hide in there." "Don't make a sound," she whispered. Eric nodded and squeezed himself into the cramped space. Lena barely had time to straighten up before the patrol banged on her door. She opened it just a crack, forcing herself to look calm. Two armored officers stared down at her. Their eyes glowed red behind their masks. "Have you seen any humans in this building?" one demanded. Lena shook her head, hoping her voice sounded steady. No, just me. I'm alone. The officers scanned her room with their tech. For a moment, Lena was sure they would find Eric. But then, one officer grunted and turned away. If you see anything strange, report it, he growled. No more warnings. Lena nodded, and the patrol left. She waited a full minute before. Opening the cabinet, Eric crawled out, pale but grateful. Thank you, he whispered. For the first time in weeks, Lena didn't feel so alone. Outside, the storm raged on. Inside, something new had begun. Asterisk, the awkward interview the storm outside calmed by morning, but Lena's nerves did not. She moved quietly in the kitchen, heating leftover soup on a tiny burner. She tried not to glance at Eric, who sat nervously on the edge of the broken sofa, his wet jacket now hanging over a chair to dry. The silence felt heavy, as if neither of them quite knew what to say. Lena finally broke it. You really answered my roommate ad? She asked, handing him a steaming cup. Not many humans come to this side of the city. You know that, right? Eric wrapped his hands around the cup, grateful for the warmth. He nodded. I know, but I didn't have many choices. My last place. Well, let's just say I couldn't stay there anymore. Lena studied him. He looked tired, with dark circles under his eyes, but there was a quiet strength there too. She wanted to ask more, but she was afraid of what she might learn. She had taken a big risk letting him in. But there was no going back now. She tried to make her voice sound like she was in control, like a real landlord. So, you're looking for a roommate. What kind of job do you have? How long do you plan to stay? And, you have any trouble with alien neighbors? Eric managed a small smile. He used to work in a repair shop, fix chips, mostly. Don't have a job right now, but I'm looking. And I don't care who my neighbors are, as long as they're not angry with me. His answer made Lena relax just a little. But before she could reply, there was a loud knock at the door, a sharp, rapid pounding that made both of them jump. Lena's blood ran cold. She looked at Eric, who stared back with wide, worried eyes. She crept to the door and looked through the small peephole. On the other side stood her neighbor, a burly alien woman with green skin and too many earrings. The woman's eyes darted back and forth, her tail flicking impatiently. Open up, Lena. I know someone was here last night. Who is it? The neighbor shouted, her voice echoing down the hall. Lena's mind raced. She opened the door just a crack, forcing a polite smile. Good morning. It was just me last night. Maybe you heard the storm. But the neighbor leaned in, peering around Lena's shoulder. I saw a shadow. Tall. Human. Maybe? You know it's not safe to hide humans here. The patrols. She lowered her voice, glancing at Eric's jacket. They're looking for someone. Lena felt sweat on her forehead. I don't know anything, she said, trying to sound calm. I'm just trying to get by. The neighbor studied her for a long, tense moment, then grunted. If you're hiding anyone, Lena, you're risking all of us. She turned and stomped away, her boots thumping down the hall. Lena closed the door and pressed her back against it, letting out a shaky breath. Eric stood up, looking nervous. I didn't mean to get you in trouble, he said quietly. Maybe I should just go. But Lena shook her head. No, you can't go out now. The patrols are still searching. Besides, I need someone to share this place, and she hesitated, her voice soft. I don't want to be alone anymore. Eric sat back down, and for a few minutes, neither spoke. The silence was different, now less fearful, more uncertain. Lena forced herself to think. About rent, not fear. Okay, let's try this. You can stay one night. I'll show you around the place, and tomorrow you help with chores. If things work out, we'll talk about the rest. Eric nodded. Deal, and thank you, Lena. Not everyone would have helped me. They both managed small, awkward smiles. Lena got up and began to show him the cramped apartment tiny bathroom. Single bedroom, leaky kitchen sink, and the old sofa that doubled as a bed. Eric listened quietly, asking questions about the neighborhood, the curfews, and where to buy food, as Lena pointed out the emergency exits. She realized Eric was careful, polite, and tried hard not to make her uncomfortable. She found herself hoping, just a little, that this might work. But outside, the city was not done with them. The building's security camera moved silently, following their every step. Somewhere in the shadows, someone was watching. Lena felt it in her bones, a cold chill that never quite went away. As night fell again, Lena locked the door and closed the blinds. She didn't know if Eric would stay. She didn't know if the city would allow them to live in peace. But for the first time in a long while, hope flickered inside her, small and stubborn as a candle in a storm. The midnight searched the city's artificial moon was high and pale, lighting up the grimy rooftops and empty streets. Inside Lena's apartment, the only sound was the hum of a broken heater and the quiet breaths of two uneasy roommates. Lena lay awake on her bed, eyes wide open, while Eric rested on the sofa with his hands folded under his head, pretending to sleep. Neither felt truly safe. Lena kept replaying the day in her mind, the neighbors' threats, the suspicious stares, the way Eric's eyes always seemed to check the shadows. She wondered who this human really was. Why did the patrols want him? Why would a human risk everything to stay in the alien district? She had promised him shelter for one night, but now she realized nothing was simple here. The clock blinked. Past midnight. Suddenly, heavy footsteps echoed in the hallway outside. Doors rattled. Voices boomed cold and mechanical. Building inspection. All residents prepare for room check. Any illegal humans will be detained. Lena shot up, her heart pounding. She rushed to Eric. He was already awake, fear written across his face. "They're searching the building," Eric whispered. "I've seen this before. If they find me," Lena didn't let him finish. "Quick, come with me." She moved to the far wall of the kitchen, where a faded rug covered a loose floor panel. She knelt and yanked the panel open, revealing a cramped crawl space barely big enough for one person. Eric hesitated. "What if they look here?" Lena pressed her hand to his shoulder, her voice urgent. "They never check. It's where the old heating pipes run. Please, just trust me." With a deep breath, Eric climbed down and pulled the rug back over himself. Lena fixed the panel as best she could, her hands shaking. She tried to make the kitchen look normal, wiping sweat from her forehead. A sharp knock exploded against her. Door. Lena steeled herself and opened it just a crack. Two patrol officers towered in the hallway, their armor shining under the harsh lights. One held a scanner. The other gripped a long stun baton. Both looked at Lena with hard, expressionless faces. "Identification," the first officer barked. Lena handed over her Hull ID, hoping her hand didn't tremble too much. The officer scanned it and grunted. "Have you seen a human in this building?" the second officer asked, stepping forward. "There was a sighting last night. If you know anything, now is the time to speak." Lena forced herself to look annoyed. "Not afraid. No humans here. Just me. I keep to myself." The officer's scanner beeped, scanning the room from the doorway. The beam swept over the sofa, the table, the small kitchen, and even hovered near the rug. Lena's heart skipped a beat, but the device only gave a green light. Safe for now. The first officer leaned in closer, his face only inches from Lena's. "If you are hiding anyone, you will be punished. Aliens and humans don't mix, and the rules are clear." Lena swallowed. Understood. The patrol moved on, banging on other doors. Lena closed her own and locked it, leaning back and sliding down to the floor. Her knees weak. When she was sure the hallway was empty, she hurried to the rug and lifted the panel. Eric blinked up at her, face pale but alive. "They didn't find you?" he whispered. Lena shook her head, relief flooding through her. "No. But you have to tell me, Eric. Why are they after you? I need to know if I'm risking everything." "For the right reason." Eric crawled out slowly, dust clinging to his clothes. He sat on the floor, breathing deeply. "I was helping an alien family last week, smuggling them out before the patrols could take them. Someone saw me. I guess they reported it. Now anyone who helps a human is a target too." Lena's eyes widened. She understood then why Eric had no friends left on the human side of the city. Why he risked everything to stay here. He was like her, a stranger, trying to do the right thing in a place that hated strangers. A noise outside made them both freeze. But it was only the wind, rattling a loose vent. Lena let out a shaky laugh. "You're more trouble than you look," she teased. Eric smiled, just a little. "You're the first person who didn't shut their door in my face." They sat in silence, listening to the city's sirens fading into the night. For the first time since Lena arrived here, she didn't feel entirely alone. They were both hunted, both outsiders, but together. They felt just a bit stronger in the darkness. A new sense of trust began to grow. Neither knew what tomorrow would bring, but for tonight, they faced the dangers side by side. The unexpected Bond morning came with a heavy gray sky and rain still beating softly against the windows. Lena's apartment felt different, as if the danger of last night had changed the air. She moved slowly around the kitchen, setting out to crack mugs and trying to push away her worries. The city's patrols might return any moment, and her neighbor's suspicions had not faded. Still, for the first time in many lonely days, she wasn't alone. Eric woke on the sofa, stiff and rubbing his eyes. His face was drawn and tired, but he managed a weak smile when Lena handed him a mug of hot, spiced tea. For a few moments, they sat in silence, sipping quietly, listening to the steady drip from a leaky pipe overhead. Lena felt strange talking to a human, strange, but not unpleasant. She asked about Earth, and Eric told her simple stories about the smell of rain in the old forests, about swimming in muddy rivers, about holidays where families sang songs together by firelight. Lena listened closely, letting herself imagine those faraway places. She had never left her world until she came here, and hearing Eric's memories made her long for something she couldn't name. Soon, the conversation drifted to lighter things: favorite foods, funny stories from childhood, small dreams for the future. Eric's laughter was quiet, but honest. When Lena told him about her first job in a starport kitchen, how she once dropped an entire tray of soup on a general's feet, laughter filled the little room. For the first time, Lena forgot to be afraid. Suddenly, a heavy fist hammered the door, making them both jump. Lena froze, tea halfway to her lips. The knock came again, louder and angrier. Eric's eyes flashed with fear. Lena motioned for Eric to stay still. She smoothed her hair and opened the door just a crack. The landlord stood in the hallway, his face pale, eyes narrow, long jacket dripping rain onto the floor. "You're late with the rent," he growled, shoving a data tablet in her face. "You have until tomorrow. If you can't pay, I'll find someone who can. Maybe that nosy neighbor wants your room." Lena's heart sank. "I just need one more day. Please," she pleaded. The landlord's gaze shifted past her, noticing the extra mug and blanket on the sofa. "You have someone staying here?" he demanded. Lena's mind raced. "It's just a friend, visiting, not a tenant." He snorted, not believing her. "No more chances, Lena. If I see anyone else living here, I'll report you. Patrols pay well for tips." He turned and stomped away, slamming the door behind him. Lena slumped against the wall. "We're running out of time," she whispered. Eric stood, pulling a small pouch from his travel bag. I have some credits left. It's not much, but maybe enough for the rent. Please, take it. Lena shook her head. It's your last money. You'll need it to survive. Eric pressed the pouch into her hand. You saved my life. You believed me? If I can help, I want to. Their eyes met. For a moment, Lena felt a warmth inside her she hadn't known in years. She realized she didn't just want Eric's help. She wanted his friendship. She wanted someone to talk to, someone to trust. In this lonely, dangerous city, Eric was the first real friend she'd found. She looked down, embarrassed by her tears. Thank you, Eric. I won't forget this. They sat together, making a plan. Lena would pay the landlord with Eric's credits. They would split chores and keep a low profile. If the patrols returned, Eric would hide again. It wasn't a perfect plan, but it was something as the day slipped by. They worked side by side, fixing the heater, patching a broken window, making soup with the last of Lena's food. They talked and laughed, sometimes falling silent when they remembered the world outside their door. But as night approached, Lena saw shadows moving in the street below. Someone was watching the building, waiting. Danger was never far away, but Lena didn't feel hopeless anymore. She wasn't alone now. When Eric made a joke about her terrible soup, Lena threw a spoon at him, and they both laughed so hard it hurt. In that moment, Lena knew she had found something worth protecting. No matter what happened next, she would fight for her home and for the friend she had found by answering a knock in the night. Outside, the rain kept falling, but inside, Lena and Eric shared warmth, hope, and the first quiet bond of trust. And as the lights flickered in the old apartment, they both wondered maybe this wasn't just survival. Maybe, for the first time, it was the beginning of something better. The attack and the escape plan. The old apartment building groaned and creaked as night returned, bringing with it the cold wind and a heavy sense of danger. Lena checked the locks on her door 3 times, but nothing could settle the storm inside. Her heart skipped, peeking through the thin curtains, searching for movement on the rain-slick street below. Eric sat quietly at the table, his hands around a cup of lukewarm soup, eyes distant and troubled. The rain outside hid many things: shadows, secrets, and the people who watched from the alleys. Lena saw them sometimes, strangers in long coats, faces hidden, always looking up at her window. She didn't know if they were patrols, informers, or desperate souls like herself. But tonight felt different. Tonight, she sensed the city itself was holding its breath. Suddenly, the power flickered, and the lights snapped off. Darkness swallowed the apartment. Lena froze. For a long moment, she and Eric listened, only the sound of rain and distant thunder. Then came the noise she dreaded most. Footsteps in the stairwell, too many to count, heavy and purposeful. The building shuddered as doors slammed and voices barked orders. "They're here," Eric whispered. He stood, every muscle tense, ready to run or fight. Lena's mind raced. Not the patrols, too many. Maybe bounty hunters, maybe someone worse. We need to leave, now. Eric grabbed his bag, already packed from habit. Lena pulled on her coat, her fingers fumbling with the zipper. "Follow me. I know a way out." The hallway outside was filled with chaos, neighbors shouting, a child crying, footsteps running in every direction. The intruders, armed with heavy weapons and searchlights, moved from door to door, breaking locks and dragging out anyone they found. Lena recognized the leader, a scarred alien with burning yellow eyes. He worked for the city's worst slumlord, famous for selling out anyone, human or alien. For the right price, Lena led Eric down the back stairs, avoiding the main halls. She moved quickly, her feet sure on the old steps. "Stay close," she whispered. "We have to get to the basement." As they hurried through the shadows, Lena spotted 2 cleaning bots sitting unused in the storage closet. An idea flashed in her mind. She knelt beside them and began tinkering, her hands steady despite the danger. These bots can be loud. If we send them into the main hallway, maybe we can distract the hunters. Eric helped, using a piece of metal to jam one bot's wheels and rewire the other to spin in circles. Lena set both on maximum volume. When they reach the hallway, they'll make enough noise for everyone to notice. She looked at Eric, her voice soft but strong. We'll have maybe a minute. We run to the end of the basement. There's an old vent behind the furnace. I've used it before. Eric nodded, determination in his eyes. Let's do it. With one last check of the hallway, Lena sent the bots rolling toward the enemy. Within seconds, alarms blared, lights flashed, and the bots crashed into walls, shrieking and spinning. The intruders shouted, trying to stop the chaos. Lena grabbed Eric's hand and they darted down the narrow stairway, hearts thundering. In the basement, the air was cold and thick with dust. Pipes dripped overhead, making everything feel damp and claustrophobic. At the far end, Lena pushed aside a stack of old boxes and revealed a narrow metal grate. She knelt, fingers searching for the hidden latch, and finally pried the cover loose. The vent was barely wide enough for a person to crawl through, but Lena didn't hesitate. You first, she whispered. I'll follow. Eric squeezed into the vent, dragging his bag behind him. Lena followed, forcing herself to keep moving even as the space grew tighter. She could hear boots pounding above them, angry voices searching each room. At last, the vent opened into a dark alley behind the building. Lena and Eric tumbled out into the wet night, breathing hard, soaked by rain, but alive. They didn't dare. Eric led them deeper into the maze of alleys, away from the shouts and flashing lights. They ran until their lungs burned. When they finally paused in a sheltered doorway, Lena slumped to the ground, shaking with adrenaline and fear. Eric sat beside her, his eyes scanning the darkness. Thank you, he whispered, voice trembling. You saved me, again. Lena shook her head, a tired smile on her face. We saved each other. They listened as the city's chaos faded into the distance. For the first time, Lena realized how much she trusted this strange human and how far she was willing to go to keep him safe. Their apartment was lost, and the city was hunting them. But as the rain washed over them, Lena knew this wasn't the end. Together, they would find a way to survive. And maybe, just maybe, they could build a new home. Somewhere no one could tear them apart. Race against time, the city felt even colder after Lena and Eric lost their apartment. They moved through the back streets, keeping to the shadows, never staying in one place for long. Each alley, each old tunnel, each ruined rooftop became their hiding place, never home, only shelter for a few hours. Lena's hands ached from the cold. Eric's face was lined with exhaustion, but neither complained. They had survived too much to give up now. Some nights, they found safety in abandoned train stations or empty shops where the owners had long since fled. Lena tried to make each stop warm, an old blanket here, a piece of bread there, but the city was hard. People stared at them, some with pity, most with suspicion. Sometimes Lena felt invisible, but whenever Eric looked at her, she knew she was seen. During the day, Eric and Lena worked as a team. Lena searched for news on patrol routes and listened for rumors of safe houses. Eric scouted ahead, making sure their path was clear. Once, they met a young alien couple hiding in a broken cargo container. Lena shared half her food, and Eric fixed their heating coil. The couple gave Lena a coded address safe house where a friend might help them. But every day, danger grew closer. The city's broadcasts showed images of Eric's face, human. Fugitive, approach with caution. Patrols stopped strangers on the street, checking IDs. Lena started hiding her face, pulling her hood low, never letting go of Eric's hand in the crowded markets. One afternoon, Lena heard a rumor that made her blood run cold. The patrols had new orders. Any alien found helping a human would be punished. Lena's name was whispered too, though no one dared say it loudly. She and Eric became ghosts, moving faster, sleeping less. Trust was rare, but so was kindness. Each time a stranger offered shelter, Lena wondered if it was a trap. They finally reached the address given by the alien couple. It was an old bakery. At the edge of the district, windows dark, the sign missing half its letters. Lena knocked 3 times, the secret signal she'd memorized. A moment later, the door opened a crack and an old alien woman peered out. Her eyes were kind but wary. "Lena, Eric, come quickly. You're not safe on the streets." Inside, the air was warm and smelled faintly of bread. Other refugees sat around a battered table, sharing food and quiet hope. The woman who called herself Myra served them soup and handed Eric a dry shirt. She listened to their story without judgment, nodding as Eric explained about the patrols, the betrayals, the danger they now faced. "We're running out of time," Myra said quietly. "You can't hide forever. The patrols will find you, sooner or later." Eric looked at Lena, his voice steady. "We have to try. I can't leave her. Not after everything." Lena squeezed his hand. Stand together. We'll find a way." That night, as the others slept, Eric shared a secret with Lena. He pulled a small, glowing data chip from his pocket. "This is why they want me," he whispered. "It's proof the city's leaders are lying. They're keeping humans and aliens apart for profit. If I can get this to the right person, maybe things will change." Lena stared at the data chip, her heart pounding. "It's dangerous, but maybe it's hope." Before dawn, the safe house was attacked. Patrols surrounded the bakery, shouting through loudspeakers. Mira woke everyone and guided them to a hidden door in the pantry. Lena and Eric escaped with the others, crawling through an old tunnel that led beneath the city. As they moved through the darkness, Eric's hand found Lena's. "I'm sorry I brought this trouble to you." Lena shook her head, a fierce light in her eyes. "You gave me something better than safety. You gave me a reason to hope." When they finally reached the tunnel's end, Lena and Eric stood together, bruised but alive, watching the city wake to another day. Above, the sky began to lighten. Lena felt fear, but also courage, a new strength she never knew she had. She turned to Eric and smiled. "Just a little. We're not running anymore. It's time to fight back." Together, they stepped into the cold morning, ready to face whatever came next. Their bond was stronger than fear, and in the city's endless maze, hope was sometimes the best weapon of all. A new beginning, and knock at the door. The sun was rising, painting the city's metal towers with gold and orange light. Lena and Eric stood together on the rooftop of a quiet building, breathing in the morning air. For the first time in weeks, they weren't running or hiding. The city below was waking, the streets filling with people, some hurrying to work, others watching for patrols. But today, Lena and Eric felt different. They were not just survivors, they were ready to change their future. After escaping through the tunnels, Lena and Eric had met others who wanted the truth to come out. Mira, the kind old alien from the bakery, led them to a small group of humans and aliens working together in secret. They called themselves the Bridge. These people had one goal: to show the city that humans and aliens could trust each other, and that the lies from the city's leaders had to end. Eric gave the glowing data chip to the Bridge's leader, a calm, strong woman named Isha. With Lena's help, they shared the information on the city's networks, hacked screens and train stations, hijacked news broadcasts, even bright letters projected onto the side of the tallest tower. All across The city people saw the truth for the first time. The leaders were making money from fear, keeping humans and aliens divided on purpose. The city's reaction was a storm. Some people were angry, others afraid, but many felt hope for the first time. On every street, strangers started talking to each other. A human baker gave bread to an alien family. An alien mechanic helped fix a human's broken scooter. Patrols tried to stop the change, but even some officers started to question the old rules. Lena and Eric watched as their actions rippled out, touching lives in ways they never expected. Sometimes it felt like the city itself was waking up from a long, sad dream, but the danger wasn't over. One night, as Lena and Eric were making plans with the bridge, a message flashed on Mira's communicator. The patrols had captured Isha, and the city's leader wanted to make an example of her. If Lena and Eric didn't surrender by sunrise, Isha would be taken away, never to be seen again. Eric turned to Lena, worry in his eyes. We can't let them hurt her. But if we give ourselves up, Lena shook her head, thinking quickly. We started something, Eric. If we're caught, maybe others will still fight. But we have to try to save Isha, together. The bridge's members made a plan. Lena and Eric would go to the city square, pretending to surrender, but the others would create a distraction. It was risky, but hope was stronger than fear now. Before dawn, Lena and Eric walked hand in hand to the square. Patrols lined the streets, weapons ready, but the people, humans and aliens, both watched from windows and doorways. Mira and her friends started a protest, holding signs and chanting for peace. Soon, a crowd gathered, blocking the patrols. Path as the city leader appeared, ready to make his announcement, Lena and Eric stepped forward. But before they could be arrested, hundreds of people surged into the square, surrounding them with protection. Someone shouted, "We want truth, not fear." Others repeated it, louder and louder, until the city leader's voice was drowned out in the confusion. Myra and two brave bridge members sneaked behind the patrols and freed. Isha Lena saw her friend's face in the crowd, safe and smiling. Her spirit unbroken by noon. The city's leaders had no choice. The old laws were broken, the patrols backed away. And a new message spread across every screen. From now on, humans and aliens will share this city together. Lena and Eric found themselves surrounded by people, some crying, some cheering, all reaching out to touch the two who had started it all. Lena felt the weight of fear finally lift from her heart. She looked at Eric and squeezed his hand, eyes shining with tears and laughter. Days passed, and the city changed slowly but surely. Lena and Eric moved into a small, sunny apartment above a busy market. They hung a sign on the door. Room available, humans and aliens welcome. For the first time, Lena could decorate her home with bright colors and music, and Eric learned how to cook new alien dishes, laughing every time he got the spices wrong. One quiet evening, as Lena sat by the window watching the city lights, a gentle knock came at the door. Eric opened it, and there stood a young alien couple, shy and hopeful, asking if the room was still free. Lena smiled warmly and welcomed them inside. The little apartment filled with new voices, new hopes, and the start of another story. Lena realized the search that had started with loneliness and fear had led her to friendship, courage, and a home where everyone belonged. Outside, the city buzzed with life and possibility. Inside, Lena and Eric knew sometimes the wildest changes begin with a simple knock at the door.